Hey Ice Scrappers, it's Tom from the Ice Scrap app, and today, happy St. Patrick's Day. Today is Wednesday, March 17th, 2021, and we are so excited to have you tuning into our weekly video with the updated reported prices, having market news, Q&A. So if you have any questions during these live feeds, by all means, let us know. But we have a question for you that we want to be able to ask right now. Are you drinking green beer today? Yes or no? And if it's not green beer, if it's green anything, well, we'll count that as well. Don't forget, every Wednesday afternoon at 1 p.m., at 1 p.m. Eastern, we like to do our weekly report. So if you have questions that you're looking for us to answer, by all means, ask throughout the week, and we'll make sure to get those onto our feed, or we'll get those questions answered to you before we even have our weekly report. But we like doing this, and we have a couple of really exciting things going on that we'll talk about. But don't forget, the first poll that we're going to ask you about today is, are you drinking green beer? Well, let's talk about some of the market news that we've seen over the last week. We've seen copper prices kind of flat. We've seen steel prices slightly down. Aluminum markets also relatively flat. And we're going to get into a few of these things, but let's start with Catalytic Converters, brought to you by rrcats.com. rrcats.com have been quoting people for years with serial numbers and different photos of your catalytic converters, holding prices for 7 business days, and the reliability and the consistency is one of the real, selling points for rrcats.com. If you're tired of dealing with people in white vans that come up with no business cards and just want to give you cash real quick, and you're never sure if you're getting a fair value for your catalytic converters, well, now you can. Well, rhodium was the big market that we saw really taking a decline over the last few weeks, topping out around $28,000 an ounce, a little over that. We quickly saw a 25% price reduction on rhodium, going all the way down to $21,000 an ounce. Now, before you look at that and say, wow, a 25% reduction, we're just going to wait for the market to correct itself and increase. Well, let's talk about a couple of different things. Number one, we've already seen the market go back to $24,000, where rhodium prices seem to be trading at a much higher level. Normally, instead of moving a penny per pound like copper would, we see them moving in $250 ounce increments recently, and that's kind of how it's been flowing. So it's been really quick increases and really quick decreases, which is both good and bad depending on what day you're getting your catalytic converter quotes. Now, we know that the team over at rrcats.com holds quotes, so even if the market goes down over the next 7 days, you'll still get those quotes for your catalytic converters when they're pushed out there. Now, we watched the other markets like Palladium and Platinum, which have both been relatively strong. We did see Platinum down today and did eclipse the $1,200 per ounce mark briefly yesterday, but we saw that drop back down, and the Palladium markets have been around $2,300 per ounce. So relatively strong prices overall. We've seen the average scrap price for catalytic converters climbing to all-time record highs over the last few weeks. Even with the pullback in those rhodium prices, we've still seen so many cats quoted so high. So let the team at rrcats.com know if you have cats that you're looking to have quotes on, so you can figure out what your values are and be able to open up those work lines. Now, we know that catalytic converters come off of cars, and cars are one of the most popular items that many people are scrapping today. So let's talk about them a little more in depth. Over the last few weeks, we saw some really positive pieces of market news coming out about the steel market, with increases coming in the month of February going into March. Now, we did see those increases stabilize and materialize, with increases of about $20 to $40 per ton for different grades of scrap across the entire board, from light iron to shred to unprepared number 1, HMS, and PNS material. Now, with these increases coming, that was a really nice market sign, and initially a lot of the reports that we read in the beginning of March said that we would be seeing another $30 to $40 increase coming in April. Now, there's been a quick role reversal over the last 7 days, with market prices dropping about $20 per ton, with another $10 per ton coming, which is generally uncommon. Steel tends to be one of the industries and one of the markets that we can predict for 15 to 30 days in advance, but with a lot of instability and a lot of new financial mechanisms getting pushed into the overall market, such as, that $1.9 trillion stimulus, new tax hikes potentially, and new infrastructure packages coming out there. There's been a lot of instability in the market as things are getting figured out, and people are trying to figure out how the stimulus is going to affect the economy, how the vaccinations are going to continue, and it's given the steel market a little instability on an otherwise normally stable market that we've seen for the last 2 or 3 months, even with some of the increases. Now, the good part about that, well, a lot of the prices that we saw rise in the fourth quarter of 2020 really have stabilized, and while we did see a nice run-up happening in January with steel prices jumping about $40 or $50 a ton, we did see a little bit of the erosion in February, but overall we're still about even, if not slightly up for 2021, which is a good sign, especially as many are predicting that the second half of this year we expect to see more people going back to work, we expect to see lower unemployment numbers, more materials are going to be needed. If the current administration puts an infrastructure bill into place, we could see roads and bridges and all types of waterways and electric vehicle charging stations and all types of new builds and new constructions and new rehab projects across the country taking place, which could of course create scrap steel and also need scrap steel. Earlier today I was actually watching a video from an old 60 Minutes segment. They were interviewing, they were watching how steel was made from scrap steel, and it was so interesting to see how some of these cauldrons can hold 30 tons of steel at a time, pick them up, bring them over that boiling, melting pot of metal, kind of drop that thing in, and the fireworks ensued. And from that metal melting from the scrap steel pile outside where they started the interview, inside to the cauldron, dropping itself out, and then they were able to show on the other side of things the new I-beams being created. It's just such an interesting process, but one of the things that I took from the video was how clean the material is, which of course is something that we've talked about for years at iScrap, preparing your material to get better prices. And a lot of people have talked to us about, hey, how can I make more money on my scrap? Well, you can follow a lot of the guides that we've created here at the iScrap. As a scrapyard owner and as someone that deals with scrapyards across the country, I've been able to talk to a lot of different owners, asking them one of their biggest pet peeves, and that really has been how material is prepared. Just because you have copper wire doesn't mean that it's always going to be stripped bare bright. And one thing that we've done at iScrap is share with you different guides, different videos, different tutorials, and different lessons on how to be able to prepare and sort your material so you make, of course, more money with it. One of our primary focuses here at iScrap, other than finding out if you're going to be drinking green beer today, is to figure out how we can help you make more money with your scrap. So here we are, we've touched on catalytic converters, we've touched on steel prices. Now we want to talk about some aluminum prices. But before we really get into the aluminum market, we'd like to throw another poll out there, and we'd love to hear about how long you normally hoard your different materials, whether it's copper, aluminum, steel. How comfortable are you hoarding different materials before you're ready to sell to the scrapyards? We'd love to hear different times on that. We know that some people get it in their truck and they get it out of their truck, where other people are able to hold it for rainy days. So we'd love to learn about what you do to give us a better idea on how to cater some of the content that we're creating for you. Now, the aluminum markets, boy, they've been a really nice surprise. Even with so many of these tariffs imposed by the previous administration still in place, we've seen aluminum prices really climbing. Now, we've had a lot of questions about aluminum extrusions, bare aluminum, 6063, sheet aluminum, and we'd like to attack some of those questions right now to help give you a little more clarity on the overall situations. Now, right off the bat, two of the cleaner grades of aluminum that you should be able to make more money on at the scrapyard. One is bare 6063 aluminum, and the second is stripped aluminum wire with no steel inside, otherwise known as EC wire. Now, aluminum is always a tough thing to do, and one of the questions that we answered, believe it or not, 3 times yesterday alone was talking about extrusions, aluminum extrusions. Now, we've talked about aluminum extrusions before, but maybe we haven't gone into deep enough depth. So in the coming weeks, we'll have a podcast coming out about the aluminum extrusions, a couple more videos, but let us give you a brief overview about aluminum extrusions today. Imagine you're sitting down to bake cookies, you take your cookie dough out and you put it into a mold and you're ready to pop out candy canes or leprechaun hats or turkeys or whatever time of the year that it is that you're getting ready to make those cookies. You put your dough into a mold and you push it out. On the other side, you get a little form that's a cookie. Well, let's compare that to aluminum. People put aluminum into a form, they push something out, and on the other side, they get a window, a door frame, a door, a panel, something like that. Well, the process of making that door frame is called extruding the aluminum, and that's what aluminum extrusions come from. Aluminum extrusions, if you want to compare it to something that you see every day, compare it to cars. You see cars all over the place. You see aluminum all over the place. Aluminum was extruded, whether it was a lawn chair or a window frame. It was extruded from a process. So when you see cars all over the place, a better question is, what kind of car is it? Is it a Ford? Is it a GM? Is it a Tesla? Is it a Mercedes, a BMW, a Nissan? Any of these are individual types of cars, and that's where you could start to compare aluminum. Is it 50-52 aluminum? Is it 60-61? Is it 60-63? Is it painted 60-63? Is it galvanized or powder-coated material? Is it cast aluminum? What type of aluminum is it? Because extrusion talks about a process, not about a grade. So when you go to your scrap yards to learn about materials more, to learn how they are in depth, when you turn to the iScrap app for us to teach you about different grades of aluminum, to teach you how to make more money with your scrap, a lot of questions have to be asked so we have the answer for you opposed to frustrating you with a generic response. Now, the next question you're going to have is, how do I know 60-63 versus 60-61 versus 50-52 versus 4000 series versus 3000 series, blah, 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 blah. And now we're into word vomit because I've named so many grades, specific grades of aluminum, that you're not going to have a really good idea on unless A, you have a handheld analyzer that you can analyze the material, and at $15,000 to $30,000 per machine, I'm going to guess that most people don't. The next one is it stamped on there? Now, sometimes inside of the frames there will be a little stamping, kind of like a VIN number, kind of telling you what it was off of, an OEM part, if you will. So it could say on there 60-63, 60-61, but that's not always one of the big indicators to see either. One of the things that we recommend doing is taking a couple of samples to your scrapyard who have an XRF analyzer on site. Calling them ahead or shooting them an email, asking them about these materials and if they can analyze them to help you better understand the markets will give you a much better indicator. Now, here at the iScrap app, we want to help you make more money with your scrap. So if your scrapyards don't want to analyze your material, you're welcome to send us a sample and we'll send you an mailing address below. You can send a sample to us and we will be more than welcome to help you learn more about your different materials by using a handheld XRF analyzer of our own to be able to teach you how to make more money with your scrap. So continue to ask us questions and we'll be able to give you those answers as quickly as possible for different aluminum grades. Now, copper over the last week, today's a really good day with the market up about 4.5 cents. Overall, we've talked multiple times about COMEX market pricing. Now, don't forget, we have a poll up right now about how long you're going to hoard your material for. We'd love to hear how long you hoard your different metals for to give us a better idea on how to cater more content towards you. Now, with copper prices trading up or down about 2 to 7 cents, the same 2 to 7 cents over the last few days, it's been relatively flat overall. While COMEX copper trading has remained over $4 per pound, we've seen strong prices coming out from our reported prices, which of course is free for you to be able to do, right, by using your iPhone or your Droid or going online. You can report some prices that you've received at your local scrapyard today. Now, these prices, once they're reported, help us know where your markets are, help develop some of the national prices that you see behind me, and give you a better market indicator so you can make more money with your scrap. Now, the copper prices have been relatively strong, and almost every single report that I've read over the last few weeks has talked about a super cycle taking place, a strong amount of material needed for the rest of 2021, and going into 2022, we're going to see some very nice market prices going overall, unless we see some type of large economic disturbance, similar to what we saw last year, but fingers crossed, hopefully on St. Patty's Day you can find that 4-leaf clover to bring you a little luck, because we don't want to go through what we went through in 2020 again. But if we do follow the trends that we're watching right now, we're seeing positive market news, positive demand, overall increased prices, and all of these things are going to lead to a higher profitability for you, the scrapper, to make more money with your materials throughout 2021. Now, scrappers, don't forget, we have push notifications that we send to you if you've downloaded the iScrap app, which of course it's free. So download the iScrap app, allow push notifications, so when the markets are up, the markets are down, or the markets are sideways, we can push that market news to you. If you're looking for further market information, you can become a Patreon supporter for about 26 cents a day at minimum. Some of them are even cheaper, some of the different levels. We're going to give you more market news quicker than you would get through the push notifications. We're going to give you the ability to listen to podcasts and videos throughout the month that we won't share on YouTube or to our other social channels. So make sure you maybe take some of that stimulus money and become one of the Patreon supporters of iScraps today. Today is Wednesday, March 17th, 2021. We'd like to wish you, as everyone is a little Irish today, a happy St. Patrick's Day. Let us know if you're drinking those green beers. Let us know how long you hold your materials for. But most important, stay healthy, scrap often, and until next week, I'll scrap you later.